Hey everyone, welcome back to Leadership Rules, where we believe leadership isn't just a role, it's a way of life. So whether you're leading a team, a community, or simply leading yourself, we're here to help you unlock the rules to lead your life with purpose and impact. I'm Nick Niglio, joined by my co-host Marnie Stockman. Together, we co-authored Lead It Like Lasso and The Business of You, and we're thrilled today to have Kristy Volesky on the show with us.
Yes, we definitely are. So Kristy is an educator, speaker, and co-author of CTE Reimagined. I have it right here along with my index card full of notes to chat about. A book that challenges schools to rethink how we prepare students for the future, which of course is something Nick and I chat about all the time. So we love it. National work in the CTE space really focuses on creating learning experiences that connect education to actual opportunities, real opportunities, helping students build the skills, confidence, and direction that they need in a rapidly changing world. And this book is not that old, and the world's still rapidly changing even faster. So I think that'll be interesting to chat through. Through her work and career and technical education, Kristy's helping redefine what student success can actually look like beyond grades and test scores. So Kristy, welcome to the party.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
So how did I do on that? What else? Fill in some gaps on that bio.
Yes, I would say that rethinking the way that education is provided and constructed is really my mantra right now. But my past has expanded, like not only as an educator, so practitioner at the ground level, but also state level consultant overseeing program development across the state for both schools and colleges, which then led me to work nationally and really thinking through systems level work. So I like to approach stuff is things need to shift, but I'm not going to just complain about it. I want to provide the steps and actually how to make those shifts and changes with simple, easy, tangible steps, but also bigger bites that you can take to really make a great impact.
One thing I loved in the book is how you really did that and the way it was set up, but we'll go into that in just a bit. So we like to start with biscuits with the boss icebreaker questions.
You ready?
Yes.
You ready for this?
Let's do it.
First concert, best concert.
Oh, first concert, Josh Groban.
Okay.
No, I take that back. It was some sort of like fest. I got dragged along from older seniors. I was a junior. No idea what I was getting into. That was not a great concert. I'm not a big concert goer, so I apologize, but maybe Josh Groban was the best because I knew most of his songs and I was in college and I thought he was the best.
That works.
Came to mind. I'm going to say it's the best.
Yeah. An easy one. Coffee or tea?
Oh, coffee.
That was easy. Very easy.
I'm still working on my second cup here.
Dog or cat?
Dog. I grew up in a farm.
So how do you like your books? Paperback, audio, or electronic?
Paperback.
Ditto.
Take some good notes on paperback. Okay. Little harder. Leadership. Is it more art or more science?
I'm going to say a little bit more science, only because when I did my master's in organizational leadership, I really focused on emotional intelligence and how important it is to truly understand those that you work with and your own behaviors and how they influence the impact that you can make.
I like it.
Love that. And interesting because I think the play out of emotional intelligence looks like art, but in fact, there is science behind it, which means it can be taught, which is beautiful. Thank goodness. We can all get better.
Both, but you made me pick. So
no, absolutely. Yeah. All right, okay, Nick, you got a question for her? You want me to?
Why don't you start, Marnie, and I'll go from there.
All right. So I literally could spend days, but we promise people we won't talk for too long. But so one of the big themes in the book is what we should be doing to prepare students for life, right? Not just jobs, which I think is critically important. So, and you talked about like helping systems shift. So what does that shift actually look like in practice?
It's in practice, it's really rethinking how we have constructed our courses and thinking about them at the student level, meaning what are they taking away beyond they passed the class, they passed a test, they made it to the next level, whatever that may be, is how is everything connected? How are we showing what students are learning in the core is translating over into career and tech ed? How do we show that in career and tech ed, it's more than just your identity is attached to a job? Your identity is who you are, who you want to become, and that's consistently evolving. But we also need to engage civically and to give back and to be connected to our neighbors. So I think it is really rethinking how instruction is provided and how we are intentionally crossing those traditional boundaries of where courses end or grades end to show students what they're learning and how it is related to the next thing that they're learning or to something bigger than themselves. But it is ingrained, it's connected. We're rethinking where those boundaries of our classrooms are and really working within other systems to figure out what it is that we can be doing to make a greater impact.
It's just that whole line of just everything that you just said there reminds me of Marnie and I. We often talk about the whole notion that finished doesn't equal ready. And a lot of people approach school to just, okay, I got the grades, I did the courses, I finished the pathway, what have you. I am finished. But we so often see that doesn't necessarily mean that they are ready to go whatever's next, whether it's college or career. And you talk about the disruption, and I'm just curious, as you've written this book, as you've gone out and you've spoken nationally, how are school systems embracing this idea of needing to disrupt the status quo? Is that something that you see school systems are embracing, or is there a lot of pushback? What are the hurdles and the problems with that?
There's always people who are resistant to change. Ego, fear, it's easier to do. This seems to work. I'll hang on as long as possible. But I think that's not even who I'm talking to right now, because they're going to hold on and hold their schools or colleges back until they can't. But for those who are ready for something different, they know they want something different, and they just want to know, well, what does that really mean? And so I think it is just really challenging. Why are we doing why are we doing things the way that we're doing them? And does it even make sense? Yeah. So, I mean, how often do we hear in education, like, well, this class needs to hit all these standards? Why? That's my question. Why? Is there still a valid reason for it? Is that the only way to approach it? Or could we rethink how we're engaging with that? So I see a lot of leaders saying, we do want something different. We do understand those boundaries. We do understand that our system is set up to just push along the way things have always been. Yeah. So if you're from a certain socioeconomic class, you'll stay in that same socioeconomic class. We're not doing anything in our system to change that, because this is what we've been told to do. Now, I understand that there are compliance restrictions a lot of times where people feel compelled that we have to do it this way. We have to find a way to force something new into this system because we have to do it this particular way. And as a middle child and a former state worker, there's a lot of gray, and you got to figure out how to push the gray. So you've been told this is what you have. Do you have to do it that way? Do you have some leeway? Is there an opportunity for you to come together with a group and push this and challenge the status quo? Because if you're not, who is?
Yeah.
Nobody is. And I would say, as a state level leader, compliance is directed to bring the bottom to the middle. It's not to direct the top
to push the top. Yeah.
But that's how we've structured all of our curriculum. Oh, you have to have these certain test scores. Well, how do you get to those test scores, and what are those test scores for? And do we do pushback? I mean, I think even when we look at the ACT, all these colleges required it, and then it was disrupted with COVID, and now they've looked at alternative ways. So there are alternative ways to doing things, and there are other opportunities that come about. It's just a matter of, are we willing to rethink how things have been done? And what can we do today? And what do we need to plan for more, longer term? And I think that's what we have to get to. We have to stop saying, how do we get how things have always been done, and how do we shove it in? Instead, start with a blank paper, and what do you want? What carries over? What still makes sense? And what needs to just be brand new?
And I talk with a lot of superintendents who would agree with that philosophy, but struggle with well, I can't let my current seniors, juniors, sophomores, freshmen, wherever they are, fail while we right? It's like these folks have to stay on the hamster wheel or roller coaster that they're currently on while we reinvent. I'm curious if you've seen anything that really helps answer that, because I think that's where you mentioned fear. That's where a lot of the fear is. How do I ensure that no child gets impacted by the fact that we need to make a shift?
Well,
in the
I think
negative
again,
way.
it's what can you control and where do you start? And maybe it's a pilot, maybe it's a small group and you move from there. But let me take an example here. I had a marketing intern and the manager came back and said, don't send me another marketing intern unless they can write. Okay. So as a former business teacher, I try to teach some writing. So I go back to our English language arts teacher and just say, this is what I've heard. And she's like, one of them, can you come and tell my class that? I'm like, can we teach it? So then, and it wasn't because of just that, there was a pushback to say, we've always structured our English language arts classes this particular way.
Yeah.
10th grade, 11th grade,
yeah,
senior year, whatever it is. What if we started doing topical rather than forcing the traditional type of, books and such? Let's give students choices on topics that may be interest of them.
Yeah, not everyone wants to write about Shakespeare. Almost no one, as a matter of fact.
Right. But if you go back to what is the actual goal of the course? What is the actual outcomes that we're looking for? And if we can engage with interests and also in other concepts, why not? And now there was a course that was looking at writing business plans. Do we still need to write business plans in a business class? I would argue no. And I know some business teachers out there will just freak out when they hear me say that. But I also have to ask, well, what's the purpose? If that's being taught over here, couldn't this now take it to the next level because they're already receiving that information? Is it possible to create a cohort where these two classes intersect? They're receiving this class and they're receiving this content. Now they're walking away with multiple skill sets. And I would argue that having marketing skills doesn't hurt anybody in any profession.
Not in 2026, for sure.
So I think, and some of this stuff is already happening. It's just happening in pockets. They're doing pockets of this and pockets of that, but doing a lot of it at one place in one time is still somewhat limited. And that's where I would say to continue to push the envelope. Why are we doing things this way? If we know that contained classroom learning won't really help transpire students to apply it out in the real world or to see the connection to a career, then I have to ask, why are we teaching it? What's the point then? So then why aren't we rethinking what is the most important stuff and how are we connecting students to real opportunities? Let's say in a science class, I'm gonna go after the core in this one because I know a lot of times they're left out. Even though my book says CTE Reimagined, it's intended to start with CTE and push it to everybody else. But let's say that your local science classes, they're looking at different things under the microscope. Why not be looking at water quality? Why not be taking samples and providing that information back? Why aren't we connecting with real humans to show the real value of what it is that we're doing? In our math classes, why aren't we connecting with urban local development? Or why aren't we looking at construction engineering of making that direct connection? I mean, I understand the idea of the practice and the practice and the practice, but if all you're doing is practicing and you can't see the application, what's the point?
It's the when am I ever going to use this bit? Yeah.
Right. So that's where I'm always like, I think that's the first step, is really making that direct connection of this is what we're learning and this is the value in the real world. Because what's the harm in that? What's the harm in having a student do a real project that brings value and meaning to their community and feeling connected and valued, like what they do matters and is seen?
So I think kind of along those lines, I know you talk a lot about, the whole notion of the education and industry working together continuously. I assume as part of, in your consultative work, you actively engage with districts on how to engage with the community and the industry. Can you talk a little bit about what that entails and what that looks like?
Yeah. If you talk to superintendents, they understand the bigger picture, but we often forget it in the trickle down. So we understand that communities and local educational institutions, whether it's a school or a college, are directly impacting each other. If the community is dying out, so is the school or college. If the school or college is not very good, it's just a matter of time before the community falls, right? It's hard to
Yeah.
attract talent. People don't want to move there, send their kids, whatever. So when it comes to working with the community, I think it's important to understand that it has to be mutually benefiting. Too often in education, we're asking for handouts. We're asking for them to just volunteer, and people are just tired of volunteering. Time is money. So when we're working with partnerships and we're really thinking that through, we need to also be thinking through the lens of how are they benefiting as well? Because every time we ask them to train one of our students for a short-term period of time, it's taking away time and energy. So there has to be some sort of return on their investment. But I also think it's important to understand that we can be doing real things for our community. So one of the concepts that I bridged in my book, which because I just got so sick and tired of everybody talking in circles about the same thing and something that is just two different words. Just we need to talk to each other is, we want to do things of value that are learning and meaningful for students. And our communities need stuff done, but they don't have the manpower. That's where I'm like, oh my gosh, like we have the manpower, we don't have the money.
It's literally two puzzle pieces.
Like, I just
put them together.
I just went round and around, and for years, and I would visit these communities, and I would say, "What are you doing with your school or college?" Oh, nothing. We were in a parade or whatever. I'm like, oh my gosh, like this is not. So when I talk about partnerships and when we really look at that mutual benefiting value, that we're not just asking for a handout in education, we're not just asking for them to consistently give up their time, but we're actually asking and providing something more than cheap labor, more than just tasks getting done, but real value and real work. So what does our community need? What is a vision of economic development, and how can we align with what we offer to help solve those local challenges? We have dilapidated parts of our building. Why aren't we, or our downtown, why aren't we doing that? I remember there was one community that I'd walked through. They were doing a walkthrough talking about all these great renovations that they were doing to make it a great place to live and work. And they redid all these awnings on their downtown main square. And I'm like, oh, did you connect with your school in that? No, of course not. Because why would a construction class want a real project to do the awnings, or the fact that they set up all these different flower beds? They made the flower beds inside. I'm like, oh, did you have your agriculture class do that? No, why would we do that? Oh my gosh, like this is part of what they're trying to do. Like they want these type of meaningful projects rather than trying to figure out like where are we going to put this seventh bench that nobody wants. Like we need to be in conversation with them about what does our community needs, because as soon as we start showing that direct connection, not only are we showing students that we value you and we want you in our community and they're doing real things, we start to bridge the gaps that our community has, because we know we have fewer people. Our population is declining. Like we know that. We've been talking about that for years. We know that we're going to have fewer workers. We know that our communities are reducing in numbers, but not all have to. The communities that really want to care and to thrive, building and bridging a direct collaboration and having an aligned vision and working together. Like you have a group that has the money, you have a group that has the manpower. Together, we can not only do great things for our community, but we can actually do things for the heart too. The value, the give back, the connection, the feeling and sense of pride that makes you want to return or stay as a young person and ensure that our community has longevity.
Yeah. You mentioned something earlier that I swear this isn't tangential because it's a big part of your book for sure. And you had touched to it. And that is with, the students getting skills that they can take long-term. And you talk a lot about transferable skills, durable skills, which Nick and I talk about pretty much all day, every day. And that we are actually doing this work, but we're never making the connections for kids in reflection. So they recognize that, oh yeah, I have collaborated, but because I didn't, I didn't think about it. And recently, this is where I want to go with this. We have seen, which we consider not a great idea, but you can tell me if you disagree, that folks are looking at these character durable skills and are wanting to try to find a way to assess it by breaking it down to curriculum bites, and we're going to assign this standard to second grade and this one to, this sub skill to X grade. And we claim that like it's a more holistic, we could do this we have ideas on how to do this, but I want to hear your take on the durable skills and how does that look in your system?
When it comes to the durable, transferable, soft skills, whoever's listening,
yes,
whatever you call it in your community, those are not a one and done. Those are not.
We did it in second grade and tested on it.
Oh my gosh, like that's a thing now. Like, we love silver bullets. We love a quick fix, and companies love to make money off of quick fixes. But there is no way anybody who's worked with young people can believe that teaching something in a second grade classroom is going to last them forever. They have to practice it. They have to hone it. And even when I touch on like work-based learning and the continuum of experiences, like you can't teach communication once and be like, oh, we're good.
We did that unit.
Oh my gosh. So that alone just drives me crazy. Credentials are not my favorite thing. They are just so misused. But I think when it comes to those long-term transferable skills, that's what opens doors. That's what enables you to maintain employment, to even get a potential career. That's also what offers you opportunities to gain social capital and to find new opportunities to advance. So you have to have those skills and you have to hone those skills, and it's not a one and done. And we can't create them in isolation. If we work on these skills and then we contain students in a classroom and be like, you're good, they're not. They're not. That you have to be able to apply it. And I say this through a practitioner's lens. We love to play pretend. We love to play pretend. Let's create a pretend company and do a pretend marketing campaign. And that kids are sick of that, by the way. Like they're tired of the practice. They want to go to the game. Like they want to do something, right? So like we can't continue to say we're just going to practice, and then hope for the best. Like we need to create opportunities where students can interact with adults. And yes, they can in elementary school. Like why not? When you have these traditional career days where you have the firefighters come in, you have the police officers come in, and it's meant to be a safety thing. Why not take five minutes and just be like, let's talk about the career. This is why I love my job. Let's go look at my police car. Let's go climb on the fire truck. They already do that, right? But it's just making that intentional connection and an opportunity for students to actually interact with an adult. Doesn't mean that they've learned those communication skills, but they've been exposed to an opportunity and they have an opportunity to practice it. It does mean that that's not the only time, and we need to continue to provide those opportunities throughout their academic career, not only for those skill development, but also for real career connections and opportunities for social capital so they can realize what it is they're actually learning into a potential career path, or rule out, that's not for me. There's no way I want that.
You reminded me one of the quotes I put on the index card: social capital as an opportunity multiplier. Yes. And yes.
Yeah.
I mean, I think, as you guys are talking about this, I mean, what we often talk about is that, I mean, we haven't talked at all about AI during this conversation, and, so many of those core skills that people are learning and going to school for, whether it's in college or even learning at the high school level, if they don't have to really go through all that process anymore. It's not worth it to some extent because they can just quickly watch a YouTube video or go to ChatGPT or Cloud or what have you. And truly it is those soft skills, durable skills, whatever we're going to call them these days, right? Those are really going to be the only constant that we are sure are going to work in the future, right? 5 years from now, 10 years from now, because we don't know what the job landscape is going to look like. And kind of along those lines, I want to tie it back a little bit, Kristy, to what you said, because, one of the things that frustrated me more as a parent than anything else was when my child was younger. He would just, middle school, whatever it was, he filled out a career survey and he, got slotted for, some computer science pathway, I believe at the time. And that was the path he just kind of followed. But, I don't think enough work is being done in that regard to really flesh out what career interests the student, no matter how young they have. So a couple of questions. I mean, you mentioned going to the fire truck, jumping on a fire truck, there's a police car, just opportunities like that. What is too young for that, and what is too short in terms of being lazy that schools and institutions are doing today? Is it enough? I guess that is my question, because I always felt like as a parent it was not enough and it locked them into a specific pathway.
Can you imagine the school district that I live in? Like, I have a lot of critiques, and I have to let it settle.
I can imagine, because I live in a school district and have a lot of thoughts too.
Yeah. There's not enough being done. I really love OECD. It's an international organization.
Yeah.
I love their research because they research different countries at different economic levels, right? And I think it shows us the different pockets that we have here in the United States. Plus, I always question some of the research in the United States, like, who's paying for that? What are they paying for? You know what I mean? Like, coming from business, I know that you can buy certain things that you want, right? Okay, so I love OECD's research because it's not from the United States, and it researches several different countries. So it's really not benefiting one particular group or organization. And they had looked at all these countries, and some of the European countries that we say, oh, they're light years ahead. They're not. It's based off of socioeconomic status, but they're saying like 84 career interactions. 84 intentional career interactions. And that can make you hyperventilate a little bit. Like,
yeah, a little bit.
But if it's done with intentionality, you can do it well. So for, let's say, the career fairs that they're sent into a gym and the teachers are like, good luck, walk around a bit, we'll meet back up in half an hour, right? Not good. But that's not intentional. That's not helping the students who need to be, have helped. And that's a fun time off, but it's not learning, right? Versus if we've actually prompted the people who are visiting. And I do love, Idaho's put out some great guidance on how to make those expos and like hands-on events, even for young people, to be able to try out different careers. You could, with intentionality, be exposed to 12 careers potentially. Like, you can try things out, like, again, intentionally. So I think the entire academic career, something, and some of it is just bridging awareness. It may be having a classroom speaker come in, but again, building it with intention. That's why I put out like a YouTube video on how to design an experience, like what you do before, what you do during, and what happens afterwards. It bridges the whole gap and connects it back to career planning, but it also incorporates a true learning experience, which is what we expect in an educational setting, right? So I think knowing that the entire academic career, I don't think there's anything wrong with introducing it in kindergarten, but we're not asking kindergartners to make a decision. We're not even asking fourth graders to make a career decision, because in reality, everybody develops differently, and those really amazing experiences stick with you. So if you experience something in elementary and you're now in high school and you're like, gosh, what am I doing? And at some point in time, if it was designed well, you could remember that experience and then go back to somebody and say, I really like that. I want to pursue that, or I want to look more into that. What are my options related to that? So with that being said, it needs to be throughout the academic career, but being reasonable. We also know that in 8th grade, they are making their 4-year career plans. How do you pick which classes you're going to take if you have nothing to go off of? Because now you're basing it all based off of what you've interacted with from your home life. So I think, again, understanding that in 8th grade, they're making these key decisions about which paths and which courses that they're taking. So we want to introduce that. At the same time, we remember being 15 years old. Can you imagine being locked into a career when you're 15? Like, you've got a lot of life to figure out. So I think it's that, how do you create on-ramps and off-ramps throughout even their high school careers, so that they can, if they are like, you know what, this isn't for me. I thought it was, but it turns out it was just a really awesome teacher and all my friends were in it.
Yeah.
But I hate it.
Well, great time to find out rather than when you're 30 and stuck in a job.
Right. This is also why I believe we should be preparing students for careers that haven't even emerged yet. Like, how do we introduce students to as much as possible rather than locking them in to create skills for an entry-level career that may not be available by the time they're 23?
Yeah.
Anyway, then I think about when it comes to the college level, what's the purpose of college? It's because it's been deemed that you need more learning related to this particular career path of interest. Does it mean that you can't change your mind? No, you can. You can definitely change your mind because, again, I remember being 20 and being like, no, I don't want to be an economist. I thought I did, but it turns out maybe I want to be a business teacher. But again, we aren't waiting until that last year to have those meaningful interactions. We're not safeguarding our connections as professors to be like, no, I don't want to share those with you. We're providing as many hands-on learning opportunities that extend into college, because just because you were admitted into college doesn't mean you have a ton of social capital. It just means you were admitted into college for whatever reasons that is. So I think that when I look at the career spectrum, again, it's how many opportunities can we provide? How can we showcase students what's available? That's why also in the book, talking about transferable skills are directly tied to leadership. Giving students an opportunity to feel like they can make a shift and a change, and they have these skills that can transfer over, because businesses are even saying, I know traditionally we've gone after individuals with this particular college degree, but it turns out they need these particular skills. So we don't need necessarily somebody with this particular degree, because if they're a good fit with these skills, we can train them if they're willing. And then they found that they can train people even though they may have a degree in something else. So I think we need to have that kind of open mind too, is how are we preparing individuals so that after they graduate, they still have options. They're not so locked in and limited that they feel like they have to quit everything and go back to school because they may not be able to afford that. So I know that was a really long answer, Nick, but a lot of experiences. And I feel like we need to be rethinking some of our pathways too. And what do those look like? And how are we being more open-minded about how we're showing students that zigzag path?
I thought that was a perfect answer, especially as somebody who I've been with 4 companies in startup mode, and you hit the nail on the head, right? It's I can teach the right kind of people any skill, right, outside of the core, transferable skills, the durable skills, right? Those are the hardest for me to teach as a business owner, right? Yeah. But if they have the right skills, I can teach them how to do customer service. I can teach them how to program. There's so many different ways I can teach them on the normal trades, as opposed to, you obviously always develop your emotional intelligence skills, your softer skills, but, having that base was always what we look for in hiring young people straight out of high school or straight out of college. So I thought that was a perfect answer.
Yeah.
So,
agreed.
Kristy, we obviously could talk so long about this, but we always like to ask our guests, if they can give us one leadership rule to live by. If we were to call it the Kristy Volesky rules, what is your go-to? It doesn't even have to be a leadership rule, but what is your go-to rule or belief or philosophy?
Surround yourself with smart people and be willing to listen.
That is perfect. Yep.
I know that's really short and sweet, but it's like, I'm not the smartest person in the room, and I don't need to be the smartest person in the room. I need to surround myself with people who have great ideas and have good information, and I need to listen to them and what they have to say. And honestly, that's where I got to the point with economic development. I could have isolated myself in education, but listening to economic development, it's like, wait a minute. That's similar to
Maybe we should question this.
And who are these people, and how do I become better friends with them? Because their problems are ones that we could solve. And I think that's true in leadership is, some of the stuff that we just get stuck on, somebody can come over and say something and be like, oh my gosh, that was so easy. I didn't even think of that. I think you always need to surround yourself with smart people and to learn from them.
Well,
I can say that I'm going to win the contest on this call because you guys are both smarter than me. So I win. Kristy, tell people where they can find you if you want them to find you. Tell us a little bit about where we can get CTE Reimagined. Our folks, our people who listen would love to know.
Yeah. So VoleskyConsulting.com. I have free resources on there, links to by both of them. I have 2 books out there. One's on just work-based learning and another one on CTE Reimagined, as well as LinkedIn is another great way to follow me. I'm very active on LinkedIn of sharing out resources, commenting, connecting, following other very smart people. But my website's the easiest place to get started and to launch you into how to find me, how to connect with me, and how to utilize my free resources.
Awesome. Well, we will make sure that is in our newsletter and all the show notes, etc., so we can share with all.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thanks so much for joining us, Kristy.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay.